ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Om. Dear friends, in the last class we read shloka with the verse number 3, shloka 3, that is lokesmin vividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. So Krishna was replying to Arjuna's question. We recall that Arjuna posed a question. You told about two paths. One is a very elegant path, another is a very tedious thorny path. Instead of suggesting an elegant path to me, you have suggested a thorny path to me. Why is it so, though I am your best friend? So then Krishna said, in the last class we saw that line, Jnana Yoga path is for Sankhyas, those who are in the Jnana path, that is their path is different. And Karma Yoga is a path for men of action. So he divided people into men of contemplation, that is men of Jnana, and men of action. So in any society, all people, 100% of the people cannot be men of action. Even if you want them to be, they cannot be. Because the human nature is such that most of the people are towards action. So that is why most people are in the pravrutti and not so many in nivrutti. So he told that nivrutti marga no doubt is noble, excellent. But you are not yet qualified for that. You are not yet fit. Your mind is not yet mature. So that was the reply. That was the tone of Krishna. And he is explaining that. So he is explaining how Arjuna is still in a lower class. He has to do his undergrad first and then only go to that graduate class. So this shloka, we will read this shloka, because these are words which are something like gold. These are all golden words which have to be contemplated upon, which have to be meditated upon. The meaning has to be grasped. The main idea is to grasp the meaning and not merely concentrate on grammar. Though our idea is to know the text completely, so that is why I am breaking the sentence into all these words. We are breaking pada vibhajana and all that. We are doing all that. But our essential objective is to catch these golden words, the meaning of these golden words. So I will read the shloka. The fourth shloka is like this. Na karmanam anarambhat naishkarmyam purushoshnute. I repeat. Na karmanam anarambhat naishkarmyam purushoshnute nacha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhi gacchati. You please show that slide. Is it shown?
Yeah.
So naishkarmyam, it is something like a tongue twister. So you can experiment. Tongue twister. Naishkarmyam. So there is a ra, r, m, ya, and again ma. Ra, ya, ra, ma, ya, and again ma. So naishkarmyam. So here you see, let us, what did we do in the last class? We started with the verb. What is the verb here? So the verb is na karmanam anarambhat naishkarmyam purushaha ashnute na cha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhi gacchati. I think the whole shloka you are showing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Na cha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhi gacchati. What are the verbs here? Na karmanam break, anarambhat break, naishkarmyam break, purushaha break, ashnute. Purushoshnute is broken as purushaha ashnute. There is an avagraha rakara praslesha there. Then second line, na cha sanyasanad plus eva. Sanyasanad eva siddhim samadhi gacchati can be taken as one word, though there is a prefix called sam. Sam plus adhi plus gacchati. It is, you see, usually the verb, it carries one or two prefixes also. Upasarga, as we know, as we call them. Upasarga is the word in Sanskrit. In English we say prefix. Sam is an upasarga. Adhi is another upasarga. When you add it to gacchati, sam adhi gacchati. So a very well attains. So attains in a very, very effective way. So that is the meaning of say samadhi gacchati. So let us see the first line. In the first line, this ashnute. Ashnute is the verb. Purushaha ashnute. Ashnute means attains. Attains. So that is it is called an atmanepadi. That is why it is called it is the word the appearance is ashnute. Karoti, kurute. Karoti is parasmaipadi. Kurute is atmanepadi. So the difference between parasmai and atmanepadi is, in a parasmaipadi, the fruit of action accrues to someone else. Suppose I say pachati. Pachati means cooks. The fruit of that action goes to somebody else. So I am a cook in somebody's house. Suppose that is the case. I should say saha pachati. So he cooks for somebody else. Suppose I use the word as pachate. Pachate, that particular dhatu has both forms. There are so many words which are either parasmayapadi or atmanepadi. I will explain that shortly. So parasmayapadi means the fruit of that action accrues to somebody else. That is pachati. Suppose I say pachate, I cook some food for myself. I say saha pachate. That is, he is cooking food for himself. So that is the meaning. So that is atmanepadi, where the fruit of that action accrues to the doer. So there are certain verbs which are used as both parasmayapadi and also atmanepadi, but most of the words they are not so. Most of the words they are either parasmayapadi or atmanepadi. So it is like that. So ashnute attains, that is atmanepadi, that is for oneself. He attains, the fruit of that action is on himself. So in English we call these things a transitive verb and intransitive verb. So this is an intransitive verb. So here ashnute means attains. So what does he attain? Naishkarmyam. Naishkarmyam, this is another word which we have to understand. This is a significant word in Vedanta. I will explain that word meaning later. So Naishkarmyam, you can merely note it as actionlessness. So Ashnute Naishkarmyam. Who will attain? Purushaha. Purushaha means a human being. Purusha not necessarily means a man. Purushaha means a human being. So then under what conditions and how does he attain? Karmana na karmanam anarambhat. Karmanam anarambhat. Karmanam is Shashti Bahuvachana for karma. Karma means action. Karmanam means of actions. Anarambhat. Anarambhat again means Arambhaha means beginning. Anarambhaha means not beginning. Anarambhat means by not doing, by not commencing, by not taking up of these karmas. Karmanam anarambhat means by not taking up all these karmas. Purushaha, a human being, naishkarmyam, actionlessness, na ashnute, na applies to, he does not attain. That na applies to the verb, isn't it? Na, no, he does not attain. He either attains or not attains, isn't it? So this not applies to this verb. Ashnute. So we started with this verb and located all the connected words. So here if you see the anvaya. Anvaya means which word goes behind the other. Anvaya, anuvaya. That is the word order, as we say. In a sentence there is a word order. So of course in Sanskrit, as I told you, the word order can be anything, the meaning will be same, but still there is a way of saying. There is a way of saying. So that way, if we see Purushaha, that can be number one. Then Karmanam anarambhat, that is by not commencing any action. Naishkarmyam is number three. Naishkarmyam na ashnute, he does not attain Naishkarmyam by not commencing an action. So that is the meaning. By not commencing actions, he does not attain Naishkarmyam. So that is the meaning. So let us see the second line. Nacha sanyasana siddhim sam adhigacchati. Isn't it? So samadhigacchati is the verb there. Saha samadhigacchati, he attains. Sam plus adhigacchati. Gacchati means goes. Adhigacchati means gets. You see, when there is an upasarga, the meaning of the dhatu changes. Prahara, ahara, samhara, vihara, pariharavat. There is a shloka. Upasargena dhatvarthaha balad anyatra niyate. Upasargena dhatvarthaha, that is dhatvarthaha means the meaning of a dhatu. Upasargena, by use of a upasarga, balat anyatra niyate. Balat means forcibly. Anyatra niyate, it is taken away. It is led elsewhere. Example is Prahara, ahara, samhara, vihara, pariharavat. So regarding upasargas, a beautiful shloka is there. Haru is one dhatu. So you add upasarga pra plus ru becomes prahara. Prahara means to beat somebody, to give some thrashing to somebody. Praharati means he beats. Ahara, ahriyate, that is you take in. Samharati, you chop off. Vihara, you go for a vihara yatra, we say, that is excursion or tour or something like that, vihara. Parihara. Parihara means, suppose there is some problem, some question. What is the parihara? Kah pariharaha. What is the solution for that? So parihara means a solution, a way out. So that is what parihara. Prahara, ahara, samhara, vihara, pariharavat. The dhatu is same. Whereas upasargas have changed. And upasargas have totally dragged away the meaning elsewhere. So that is how words are formed. In almost all languages, the words are formed like that only. So this is what happens to say the samadhi gacchati also. Sam plus adhi plus gacchati. Sam means well, very efficiently. Samadhi gacchati means he attains. What does he attain and who does attain? Who attains? The earlier Purusha say applies here also. In the earlier line, that Purusha, a human being, samadhi gacchati. What? Siddhim samadhi gacchati. Siddhi means attainment. Siddhi means the result, the final result. Siddhi, you know the word sadhana. Sadhana means practice. Sadhana actually means I am doing some sadhana. People say, I am nowadays doing some sadhana, yoga sadhana or meditation sadhana. So what is the sadhana? Sadhana means a process, a spiritual process. Okay, we can use the word spiritual rather loosely. A process in which you are trying to cultivate some, say, some aspects of self-discipline. You are doing some meditation, you are doing some dhyana, or say some mantra japa or something like that. So that is what is called sadhana. Pursuing a particular goal, that is sadhana. Attaining that goal is called siddhi. Sadhana is process. Siddhi is that attainment. So siddhim samadhi gacchati. Purusha siddhim samadhi gacchati. Then how? Sanyasanad eva. Sanyasanad eva means by merely sannyasa. Sanyasanad eva. Eva means merely. By mere sannyasa. Sannyasa means renunciation of actions. By mere sannyasa, this na again applies to samadhi gacchati. Sanyasanad eva siddhim na samadhi gacchati. By mere say renunciation of actions, a person does not attain siddhi. So that is the connection. This cha in between, cha is a connection between the first line and the second line. The first line said, a person does not attain, say, naishkarmyam, actionlessness, by not commencing actions, and cha means and, by merely renouncing actions, a person does not attain siddhi. Siddhi here means that ultimate siddhi in Vedanta is moksham. So, okay, this is the shloka. So, we have seen the shloka. The second word line, anvaya, is cha, we can start with this cha, and that is the connection between the first line and the second line. Sanyasana deva, that is by merely sannyasa, by merely renouncing actions. Siddhim na samadhi gacchati. Siddhim means moksha. Na samadhi gacchati, does not attain. So the overall meaning of the shloka is, a person does not attain actionlessness by not commencing karma, and he, by merely renouncing actions, he does not attain moksha. So that is the meaning, two sentences. So then we have to see what are the significant words, because as I said, these are all golden words which we have to meditate upon. So the meaning of this naishkarmyam. Naishkarmyam is a very heavy word in Vedanta. Very heavy word in the sense, you see, a person can attain a naishkarmyam by totally renouncing actions. That is, a person becomes a jnani. In what process? He listens to all these Upanishadic sentences that I am Atma, Brahma, Tattvamasi, etc., all these things. He speculates that Tattvamasi means that you are. Then I am Atma, Brahma means this self is nothing but Brahma. So there are several things, there are several utterances in the Vedanta where there is a huge process also which says that the human being or a jiva, not only human being, is starting from an ant. Everything that is seen, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, that not only human being, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, what all we see, it is nothing but that supreme consciousness. It is a manifestation in that supreme consciousness. So that is the message of the Gita. Not only Gita, the whole Upanishads. Our Siddhanta is what we call the supreme being. He is not a person. We don't say they would do. We don't say God. We don't use that word do at all. So there is no word called God for that supreme being. That supreme being we designate in neuter gender. We don't designate in say masculine gender or feminine gender. So in that supreme consciousness, as we call it, consciousness is the supreme reality. And that consciousness has the ability to manifest as this whole world that manifesting power or manifesting ability or Shakti, that we call it Shakti. That is called, other words called Prakriti, or in other words called Maya, that ability, manifesting ability. And in that level, you visualize Shakti, you call it Vishnu, you call it Shiva, you call it something else, you call it something else. So that is the reason why there is no absoluteness in our Siddhanta. You see, a religion normally says, okay, this is what is God. This is, say, this God has created earth like this. Say, God has created all animals for your sake. All animals are for you. You can happily eat all those animals. So our religion does not say like that. Our religion says, you see, what is the real nature? What is the nature of the supreme reality? So that inquiry is there. So in that inquiry, they say there is again a big process. If you read an Upanishad like Taittiriya Upanishad, you will know that. So in that inquiry, they say that the supreme thing is nothing but consciousness which is existing all around. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It does not say that God is there, somebody sitting in heaven having some golden crown, and the heaven is paved with, say all the streets are paved with gold, and it doesn't say like that. It is somewhere there in the high skies. If it is there somewhere in the high skies, our astronauts are supposed to go and discover that heaven. So our religion does not say. Religion says that it is supreme consciousness which is manifesting as what all we see, and you are even starting from a small ant or an amoeba. It is nothing but consciousness. So that supreme thing can be attained in the sense that can be known or understood only by a purified mind. And a purified mind, it has to straight away, mind cannot be purified by reading a book. Over a period of time, man has to get rid of all his, say, inbuilt tendencies. There are so many inbuilt things like anger, hatred, love, so many things, desire. All these things one has to slowly get rid of. Slowly, the mind has to be kept away. And then you have to realize that you are nothing but that supreme consciousness. So when you realize that state, you may be doing certain actions from the point of view of society. And Krishna is going to give the example of some philosopher kings. So these philosopher kings like Janaka, King Janaka, the father of Janaki. Janaki is Sita Devi. Sita Devi, who is the heroine in Ramayana. So King Janaka was a king and a philosopher. So when he was discharging his duties as a king also, he was doing it as a person who knew that supreme reality. So there are two cases in which you can do action. One is you can do action without knowing the supreme reality. You can also do action by knowing supreme reality. And there is also another type, you can totally renounce actions without knowing the supreme reality, but with a desire to know that supreme reality. With a desire to know that supreme reality, you can renounce actions, isn't it? So that is what is referred to in the second line. Nacha sanyasanadeva. Sanyasanat eva. By merely renouncing actions, with an idea of attaining knowledge, with an idea of studying Upanishads, with an idea of purifying our mind, etc., etc., one can, say, purify his mind by giving up all actions, etc. But one can keep on doing some actions also, but then realize, and then whatever is the prarabdha karma, it is prarabdha karma means something which has a karma which has started giving some result. So according to his prarabdha karma, King Janaka, because he was a king, he can't give up his duties as a king. He can't say, I will go to a forest and all that. Then he will be renouncing his, he will be abandoning his work. He will be, in what way, that is a sort of, he is not supposed to, give up his duties as a king. So by being a jnani, that is by having that full awareness of Brahman, he was discharging his duty. So that is what is called, Naishkarmyam. Naishkarmyam means, though he was doing all those actions, all his actions, they are not going to give result to him. In the last class, in the very first class, I told you, karma is something which gives result. When it stops giving result, that is actionlessness. You see, it is as good as no action, isn't it? You do an action and get a result. Suppose you do an action and don't get a result, that is as good as actionlessness, isn't it? So that particular state is called action, naishkarmyam. Nishkarma, nirgataha karma yasmat, nishkarmaha. Sa nishkarmaha. Nishkarma means one from whom all actions have been taken away. Nirgataha karma yasmat iti nishkarmaha. Nishkarmasya bhavaha tad bhavaha naishkarmyam. Isn't it? So a state in which whatever actions you do, they do not result in any karma phala, they do not result in any result. They do not give any result to you, and then that will not cause rebirth and all that, because karma will again cause rebirth. So Naishkarmyam is a stage where you may be doing actions, you may not be doing actions, but you will not get the fruit of that actions, and then there is no question of rebirth. So it is a state of enlightenment, a state in which he knows the supreme reality. So that is what is called Naishkarmyam. So now, having understood this word Naishkarmyam, Sannyasanat, this sannyasa is again another word which we have to see. Sannyasa means keeping away all your duties. Sam plus nyasa. Sam means well, very efficiently. Nyasa means keeping in some place. Samnyasa means to keep away. Keeping away all actions. That is, with an intention to study Vedanta, with an intention to understand one's own nature and then the supreme reality. There are some people who used to, this sannyasa was prescribed for certain people in olden days. In fact, for example, a Brahmin, after completing his grahasthashrama and also vanaprasthashrama, he was supposed to take up a sannyasa. He was supposed to work for society. In fact, sannyasa does not mean totally, not becoming useful to society. Sannyasi is a great useful to society. He is highly useful to society because he is a sort of a moral guide to the whole society. He has given up all, idea of self, all notions of self. He is totally devoted in Brahma. He treats everybody equally. He has gone beyond Varna and Ashrama. So that is the stage of a sannyasi. So there are people who give up these karmas, but then when you give up this karma, it should be associated with that pursuit for the supreme knowledge. If that pursuit for supreme knowledge is not there, by merely doing some karma sannyasa, you are not going to attain moksha. So that is the catch. So the catch is, the knowledge is supreme. Once you attain knowledge, it does not matter whether you do action or not. Once you do not, once you are not in that path of knowledge, whether you do sannyasa, you do not do sannyasa, it doesn't matter, because you will not attain siddhi. So that is the catch situation. So sannyasana, by mere sannyasana deva, by mere renunciation of actions, one does not attain siddhi. What is the time left? Should we take up the next 7 more minutes? We may not be able to do another shloka. So this particular shloka, because I had to explain these words, 2 words called Naishkarmyam and Sannyasa. It is better to explain, understand these words, so that by merely knowing grammar, it doesn't mean much. So we have to see what exactly is karma. So karma again, in what manner karma leads to chitta shuddhi. So that again we have to see. Karma, according to Shastra, karma leads to purification of mind. How? By doing this karma which is prescribed by Shastras, you are doing it in that with an Ishwararpana Buddhi. I told about this Ishwararpana Buddhi also in an earlier class. Ishwararpana Buddhi means as an order from the Lord, as an order from the cosmic being. So as your contribution to the whole samashti, as your contribution to the aggregate, individual and the aggregate, as a contribution of the individual to the social harmony. So with that frame of mind, and with an idea that you are being commanded by the Lord, so naturally all your actions will be pure. So I will not go to a pub, drink and do merrymaking and then say, Shambho Tavaradhanam. I will not say. For example, there is one shloka which ends as, Yadyat karma karomi tattad akhilam Shambho Tavaradhanam. Whatever action I do, oh Shambho, it is your worship. Suppose I do in that mode. That is the pure karma yoga mode. Yadyat karma karomi tat akhilam Shambho Tavaradhanam. That is, whatever action I do, oh Shambhu, it is all surrendered to you. The karma phala is to you, suppose I say. I will not cheat a fellow and then come home and say, oh Shambho Tavaradhanam. Or I will not go to a pub, drink, make merry and then do all nonsensical things and then come back home and say, Shambho Tavaradhanam. So automatically, it is something like some parent watching you. So somebody is watching you, and then all your actions will be filtered. So that way, karma is leading to Chitta Shuddhi in the sense that your ego is reduced. That person, I need that result, that ego is reduced, and then you are doing for the welfare of the society. So that is how it leads to Chitta Shuddhi. So when a person is in that level of Chitta Shuddhi, his mind is well equipped to receive the instruction of the Upanishad. So the Upanishad says, unless your mind is pure, it cannot receive instruction. The mind is compared to a mirror. If there is a lot of dust accumulated on the mirror, it is not going to reflect sun's light. There is a mirror on which a lot of dust is there. Even if you keep under the sun, it will not reflect the sunlight. You have to wipe the mirror. So this process of wiping the mirror is this karma yoga. Karma yoga is also said to be a sort of detergent. One Swamiji has compared it to a detergent. So it washes all the say dirt, and then ultimately that also, detergent also, you have to wash it off. Karma also has to go away. So that is why detergent, you don't come out with a lot of soap on your body. Even that soap also has to go away. So that is why karma yoga is something which also goes away once a person attains that knowledge. So karma yoga is like a detergent which washes, and that also disappears. So that is how karma yoga is useful. It leads to Chitta Shuddhi, and then that enables you to be in that path of jnana, and in that path of jnana you will slowly attain what is called siddhi. That siddhi or naishkarmyam is the siddhi. That the siddhi in the second line is the same as naishkarmyam in the first line. So is it clear? Yes. So I think we will stop here, and then we will take up the other shloka in the next class. Thank you.